Hey amigos, I was just working on a little video and I'm gonna post that next, but for the time being I just thought I'd give a little garden update. The composting tomato planters are doing very well, surprisingly well. These tomato planters are using tomato plants that I used last year, and before the last freeze last year, I just cut a little piece off of each one and stuck it in water and grew some roots and sort of nursed them through the the winter with this grow light, and now they are doing very well. The whole point of this deck garden is to learn how to garden with very few inputs, meaning no commercial fertilizer, just using natural methods of pest control, and basically attempting to use nitrogen fixing plants like clover and alfalfa and such to basically provide the fertilizer that you need to grow the crops, right? For example, this center planter that I have here, and I'll show it to you momentarily, I basically chopped down a bunch of clover and now it's on the ground level and it's covering the soil surface, so I don't have any exposed soil. And I chopped it down so that caused the roots to die back and that releases nitrogen slowly, not all in one thing like commercial fertilizer. And basically throughout the summer, that will provide nutrients because the bacteria will metabolize it and slowly release the nitrogen to the plants, and then the plants will be ready to take it up a little at a time. So they won't go crazy with this burst of super nitrogen, but they will get a more steady supply throughout the year or throughout the growing season. That's the plan. Now in a couple of these things, like I planted cucumbers next to onions, and lettuce next to onions, and they're not doing very well predictably, but all I did was just throw a handful of seeds in there. Well, not even a handful, just a little package, and I just went whoop, and that's what came up. But so basically and over here I have my compost from last year, which would have just been garbage, and I have a cover crop of alfalfa and as well as things like lettuce and some cucumbers and a few other things growing there, and that will cover the ground on that end planter, which is that big heap of compost right there. So I'll just do a quick flyby here. Okay, there's the bush, and here's the vine. I have two of them here. Ground cover coming up. Cucumbers next to onions, probably a mistake. Chop and drop, as well as romaine lettuce here. Some seed lettuce that I grew from seeds next to onions, which is a no-no. And I've got more cucumbers here, and I've got peas and cucumbers here, as well as a ground cover. So and as a bonus, these vining cucumbers will grow up and they'll provide a little bit more shade to my condo from this western sun, which comes streaming through this window. And that's an aspect of permaculture. Grow things that provide more than one purpose, like the tomatoes will provide shade as well as tomatoes, as well as brown compost for next year. And these planters, all my kitchen scraps are going in there, and then all that time these planters will be producing compost, and then after the tomatoes die back at the end of the year, these pots here will both be full of compost, just as they were this year. And then I can toss them up on top of the planters. And I'm assuming that the organic matter, as it always does in Washington State because the ground doesn't freeze, the organic matter will continue to be metabolized by bacteria, and then that will cause the soil level to sink down, because a lot of the a lot of the organic matter will be lost to the atmosphere in nitrogen, and it'll be taken up by the plants, which are then cut off, and like that romaine lettuce is going to end up in my salads. So, and then next year I'll have a whole additional bunch of compost, which I will then distribute across the planters. And right about then, of course, I will be in my new place. So the experiment goes well. If this romaine lettuce planter works very well, I might just do some kind of hugelkultur bed in my new place, wherever that is, and I will basically have that cover crop of clover and alfalfa growing up and everything throughout the winter, and then I'll just pull out a string trimmer and then just mow it all down, and then stick the things that I want to grow in there, and then that will provide all that nitrogen and everything. And then I will know how, I will have the system perfected on how to grow without inputs, so that if the time comes when we don't have commercial fertilizer available, I will still be able to grow at a good rate. And then of course you've got that emergency crop, which is that tub of water there with the duckweed in it, which can metabolize free nitrogen in the water and turn it into biomass very quickly, and you get some protein out of those. That's a high protein plant right there, and if that would be good for feeding ducks, feeding chickens, feeding fish, and in an emergency I could dig big huge pits and fill them with water and grow massive amounts of that duckweed as human food because it'll, in good sun, in a good area, in fairly decent weather, that duckweed will double every single, I think it was like every 24 hours it doubles. So I could like scoop half of it out and then it would replenish itself the next day. Now that is one humongously productive crop right there. So that, I'm just sort of keeping that as an emergency, just as I keep preps such as big buckets of weed in my storage room. It's just an intelligent thing to do. So this I've been running this deck garden since late 2007, early 2008, and I have learned a lot, and that's really the main function of this deck garden, because I tell you, if money really starts getting short, being able to produce something outside of the economy will be worth a lot. So, and of course my skills, I'll be able to share those with my neighbors, increasing the stability of the neighborhood, and good times. Well, that's an update on the deck garden, and now I'm going to get back to this other video, which I almost hesitate to put on my channel, but we'll see. I'm almost thinking about opening a second channel, like a lot of preppers do. They have like a prepping channel, and then they have another channel for other subjects. This might be a good opportunity to do that. Okay, well, I've rambled on enough. That's my deck garden, and it is now, I think it's the 9th or the 10th of May, and my composting tomato planters and the immortal tomato plants that I made videos on before, they seem to be working. But of course I will not know for sure until I actually start picking cherry tomatoes off of these plants. So they do seem to be growing. Now let's see if they actually produce for the second year in a row. And if they do, then all of Monsanto's big dreams of having to buy seeds from them every single year, at least with tomatoes, when you can make your own starts, basically that wouldn't be a problem. And plus, things like that, when you can't save your seed because a plant is a hybrid tomato plant that's like tweaked and messed with other or combined with other tomato varieties to produce more. If you save the seeds, the hybridism will go away, and you can get any number of different results. But with a direct genetic cloning process like this, you get exactly what you got the last year. Now, let's see if it actually happens. Now, let's see if this plant actually acts as a new plant, these plants, or if they act as old plants. So we'll see. Only time will tell. Later.